Well, we've got some of the greatest TV cinematographers working today with us on our panel. Marshall Adams, Better Call Saul, John Conroy, Penny Dreadful, City of Angels, David Mullen, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, David Reichert, Deadliest Catch. Sorry, David Klein from Homeland. He did an individual segment with us, but he couldn't join us for this final segment. But gentlemen, as we talk about cinematography, we'll in this segment talk more in general instead of specifically about your shows. I would love to know, and I often do this on panels, tell me somebody in the history of film or television that does what you do, a cinematographer, that just like an idol of yours, somebody that you really appreciate their work and love what they do. I'm going to start with John because he's got a couple of posters behind him that might lead us down one of those roads.
Well, actually, I suppose I'm very lucky. My dad was a cinematographer, so I have to give him the shout out. He passed away last year, but we actually went to see how the West was won in the ArcLight cinema in LA in proper 3-strip. It was 3-strip Technicolor, and you could see the little lines down the center of the screen where the 3 strips joined over. So he's someone I loved his work, but I was very lucky. I love Philippe Rousselot's work. I was lucky to be his focus puller, and I would say for him, and he's still doing it brilliantly. And I love Shelley Johnson's work. And obviously the greats of Conrad Hall and people like that, and Gordon Willis, they're just like a given. But I think for someone who's doing it right now, I would say Philippe is someone that I still always look to and love everything he does.
We've got multiple Davids, so I'll give you first and last name. David Reichert, what about you on that question?
Robert Yeoman with his work with Wes Anderson, because creating just a whole different world, just going to the just to the end of the spectrum on that is what I really love about that. It just the details in there and the colors that they use and everything like that. And I also just love all those films too. I think that helps as well. So I think that would be mine.
I agree with that actually. I loved Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah.
Should have won everything.
Yes.
David Mullen, what about you?
Starting out, for me, it was Jeffrey Unsworth. When I was a teenager, I saw Superman, the movie, and I read the American Cinematographer issue about it. And then later I saw Cabaret. So his films, and 2001, all his films are just big influences on me. And then in college, it was Vittore Storaro and his color theories and his use of color. And that's still a big influence today on my work. I'd say that people working today, I just love cinematographies, but I'm particularly fond of Janusz Kaminski, Robert Richardson, those kind of people who push the envelope with light and diffusion and things.
Oh boy, I would say that I thought that Gordon Willis was in some of his early stuff, Storaro too. It's very natural style, and which is something that I really kind of lean to. And I'd say now probably Roger Deakins in a lot of ways. He's brought a lot of innovative ideas and style, and I love his kind of very natural approach to just about everything he does.
Well, I was going to ask about him from a cinematography standpoint. He won the Oscar this year for 1917. When somebody like him does really long takes, almost invisible takes to an audience member like me, or Lebesky on Birdman does the same thing. When you, who does this for a living, we'll start with David Mullen on this. Can you see sort of the seams a little bit, or is it invisible to you as well?
I'd say with 1917, I probably could spot 25% of the seams, but 75%, I don't know where they are. Obviously, if I can't spot them, I don't know if they exist, or I don't know. I'm just guessing that there must be more seams than I imagine. There's just a few spots that I would think is a transitional point, like when they plunge into the dark room from the trench and everything goes almost black for a second. That seemed like a natural spot. But, same with Birdman. there are times when I could say, oh, look, when they moved along this wall, or when they did this, or this person blocked the lens, that seems like a point where you could make a cut. But there are the points where it's obviously involving more complex visual effects to create a, a seam in the middle of a shot that there's no cutaway, just the person's right on camera and moving, and suddenly they transition to another take and they make it perfect. So
Anybody else have a comment about that type of work?
I think I love 1917. I love Roger Deakins' work, but I think those long shots are great. I think it's great when you can do them, and unfortunately, we do them a lot, and people cut into them.
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to ask about a shot, though. Some shot that you saw in your life, maybe when you were a teen or college or 20s, 30s, whenever, from a movie that just blew you away, that you still think about.
I'll jump in there because I have the poster behind me, and it was when Omar Sharif was introduced in Lawrence of Arabia, and that silhouette on the camel, and I think that shot lasted 3 minutes or something, maybe longer, and that I just couldn't believe that shot would be. And I actually saw a proper, when I was a kid, I worked in Panavision in London as a technician, and actually they had they redid the print in 70mm and projected it in Warner West End, and I just that whole film, but that shot in particular just stays with me the whole time. It's such an iconic shot.
I'd have to say actually that some of the shots from Empire of the Sun, which are just incredible, huge reveals of big stuff going on in the background, which is one of my favorite films of all time. I thought that Spielberg did such a fantastic job with that film. It's beautiful and underrated, highly underrated.
Well, it'd have to be it's from Kill Bill, and it's a pretty classic shot, but the evil crew is marching in to face Daryl Hannah, and I don't know, it's something about the way that you've seen those shots before that was done with the music, and there's just a couple of angles in there, but that shot is often in my mind, and I often find myself in kind of some of these shows trying to create something along those lines, and I just love that shot.
I love the opening of the movie Excalibur. That was something I saw right when I went to college, and the Wagnerian score, the silhouette of Merlin coming out of the fog, and the horsemen at night backlit by fire. It's just a really memorable opening scene for a movie.
My dad gaffered that, David.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah,
wow.
And he was Jeffrey Unsworth gaffer on A Bridge Too Far as well.
Oh,
man.
Yeah.
We should talk more than.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'll just leave for dinner in a little while, and you four can continue talking.
Yeah, right.
A little bit to contemporize, sorry, Chris, those shots. Seamus McGarvey shot in Atonement, and Joe Wright shot in Atonement on the beach too. For me, was like, for something that's a bit closer, was a fabulous shot as well. And that actually, I think I was still focus pulling then. It kind of really inspired me, actually. Seamus's his work is outstanding.
We've been talking about your fictional work today. You work in fictional programming, and of course, David working in real programming with real life stakes involved. When you're working though between period, some of you are in period now, and contemporary or real life for David. Do you think differently when you're planning out that show and what you're going to do when you're in different types of time periods? We'll start with Marshall on that.
I think it affects your approach a little bit, but mostly, that I think a lot of that is done in the production design. Our show is a weird one in that it's kind of trapped in this no man's land of whatever it is, 2006. So we got flip phones, but that's about it. So, and the prop department's always fighting to try to find flip phones, which everybody threw away, unfortunately. But I wouldn't say photographically that our approach is, in my opinion, anyway, that much different.
Do you want a different type of camera lens if you're going to be in a certain decade, or different type of lighting or things like that? We'll go to David Mullen on the second part of my question.
We deliberately on Marvelous Mrs. Maisel don't try to do kind of what do you call a period feeling in terms of softening the colors or making things look faded. They want everything to feel very lively and vibrant and part of the present. So the period look really comes from the production design. From my aspect, it's just mainly, I have to do some research into the lighting of the time, because we have scenes on nightclubs and on TV shows, sets of the late 50s, and even going out in the streets of Paris or New York, I have to be aware what light sources were available. I try not to have obviously modern lights in locations and things. So that affects me at times. Like when I did the Cuban nightclub, I go through 3 color schemes, and during that sequence, it would have been easy to use LED lighting that could switch colors. But because that didn't exist in 1959, I had to hang a light for every color. So if I wanted 3 color cues, I had 3 times as many lights in the ceiling than I normally would. So at some point in that little set, I had like 67 lights hung. And I wanted to do a 4th color, but I couldn't, because I just didn't have room in the ceiling for 1 more light to have 1 more color. But that's just, back then, if you wanted to go from red to blue, you had to have a red light and then a blue light. You couldn't just magically switch 1 light.
For us, the world of crab fishing is just where we live, and it is a fantastic place. So really, what we can do is, these are real working boats, so that always has to come first. There's safety concerns, and they're really trying to fish, so we can augment their lights, but we're always kind of at the mercy of what the captain of this boat will allow. So we go through each boat, and you can imagine each boat is kind of an extension of the captain's personality. And so we want that to actually be branded into the boat as well. So we'll notice, like, he likes all these red lights over here. So we'll see if we can bring those up. We'll have dark spaces over here. And, we'll try to bring some edge in off of that, because we know they work out here. But, in the end, then we have to have a walkthrough with the captain, the crabbers. They have to be like, well, we're into this or not. About a third of our lights get ripped down, moved, changed, and then we kind of pivot on that and end up with something that it really is the world of crab fishing. It just, with our cameras, we just want to see that as best as we can. So that's what we end up doing. And then, in the wheelhouse, we're doing the same thing. We have lights that spill across their face from the decks. We need to bring that up a little bit. And then we have their monitors that will add a little bit just to help, kind of fill that side. And that's pretty much what we do.
And John, wrap us up here on your thoughts.
Yeah, I would say that for me, period lighting, I did a film, I went through a stage there where I did an Oscar Wilde sort of biopic called The Happy Prince. And there was a lot of candlelight and oil light on that, and The Name of the Rose. So I did that, a TV series in Rome. And basically what that meant was, any lights that you had, for night scenes in particular, you had to be able to dim them seamlessly. And so some of the modern lights, the LED lights and the tube lights and stuff, they kind of punk on. They don't come up slowly. And so I'd say, from a lighting point of view, with period lights, you've got to be able to use lights that you can rise and fall without noticing when someone strikes a match or something like that, or lights an oil light, because it just literally can't come on like a light switch. And then I always explore the route of old lenses for old projects, just because I like that aesthetic. I think it helps. Like on Penny Dreadful, they were 70-year-old lenses we used. So from that point of view, I'd always be trying stuff. I don't own any gear, so I literally want to try different things the whole time. But I'd say mostly from period to modern, for me, it'd be the lighting practicalities of being able to dim slowly up rather than just popping on.
Well, this has been so fascinating for me today. I've enjoyed it. Any Cinematography Guild members, any TV Academy members in that branch, I hope you're going to consider David Reichert and David Mullen and David Klein and John Conroy and Marshall Adams. And guys, thank you all for joining us today.